We really don't give our ancestors much credit. We don't really think about how people in cultures hundreds and even thousands of years before us lived without modern conveniences. I mean, they used to just use rocks as tools. Meanwhile, I'm sure some of us couldn't go an hour without looking at our phone. But did you know there are quite a lot of ancient ideas and technologies that we still use today? Some of them haven't been replicated yet by modern methods. Today we'll be looking at primitive ideas that actually worked. Better stick around for number 1 because it will quite possibly blow your mind. Number 10. The steam engine. Okay, let's start things off with something so simple that any 5th grader with an aptitude for science can recreate, but so useful that without it, life as we know it wouldn't exist. The first primitive idea on our list is the humble steam engine. Heron Alexandrinus, otherwise known as the hero of Alexandria, was a 1st century Greek mathematician and engineer who was the one who developed the steam engine. He named his machine the Elapile, named after Aeolus, god of the winds. The design was very simple, and it had the basic elements modern steam engines use to this day. It had a sphere positioned in such a way that it could rotate around its axis. There were nozzles opposite each other where the steam is expelled, causing the sphere to spin around its axis. The replica of Heron's machine could rotate at 1500 rounds per minute with a very low pressure of 1.8 pounds per square inch. The simple yet remarkable device was forgotten and never used again until 1577. This is when the steam engine was reinvented by the philosopher, astronomer, and engineer Taqi al-Din. Number 9. Ancient Roman concrete. Okay, now we move on to a primitive idea that if it weren't for this idea, we wouldn't be able to build tall, making skyscrapers and high-rises. These ideas would have just been a figment of our modern imagination. For the sake of accuracy, this next entry on our list isn't exactly the same as its modern equivalent, however. It is much stronger and more superior than its modern counterpart. Scientists studying the composition of Roman concrete, which has been submerged under the Mediterranean Sea for the last 2,000 years, discovered that it was superior to modern-day concrete in terms of durability, as well as being less environmentally damaging. The Romans made concrete by mixing lime and volcanic rock. When those two are mixed together with seawater, a unique chemical reaction takes place, resulting into a mixture that was greater binding properties than modern concrete. This ancient concrete contains the ideal crystalline structure of tobermorite, which has greater strength and durability than the modern equivalent. Finally, microscopic studies identified other minerals in the ancient concrete, which show potential application for high-performance concrete, which potentially means it can be used to safely store hazardous wastes. Number 8. The 2,000-year-old earthquake detector. Although we still cannot accurately predict earthquakes, we have come a long way in detecting, recording, and measuring seismic shocks. What many don't know is that this process began nearly 2,000 years ago, with the invention of the very first earthquake detector. It can also be known as a seismoscope. In 132 AD by a Chinese astronomer, mathematician, engineer, and inventor called Zhang Heng. The device was extraordinarily accurate in detecting earthquakes from a distance, and did not rely on shaking or movement in the location where the device was situated. Zhang's seismoscope was a giant bronze apparatus, almost 6 feet in diameter. 8 dragons along the outside of the barrel marked the primary compass directions. Each of the dragons had a small bronze ball in its mouth. Beneath the dragons sat 8 bronze toads with wide gaping mouths ready to catch the balls. The sound of the ball striking one of the 8 toads would alert observers to the earthquake and would give a rough indication of the earthquake's direction of origin. In 2005, scientists in Zhangzhou, China, which coincidentally was also Zhang's hometown, managed to replicate Zhang's seismoscope, and they then used it to detect simulated earthquakes based on waves from 4 different real-life earthquakes. These earthquakes were located in China and Vietnam, and it detected all of them. What's even more surprising is that the data gathered from the test were exactly the same as with that gathered by modern-day seismometers. Number 7. The Baghdad Battery. Modern-day life would be impossible without batteries. They power almost everything we use to make our lives more convenient. However, did you know that this very modern convenience had its roots more than 2,000 years ago? The Baghdad Battery, also known as the Parthian Battery, is a clay pot which contains a copper cylinder. Suspended in the center of the cylinder is an iron rod. Both metals are held in place with an asphalt plug. These artifacts were unearthed during the 1936 excavations of the old village Kujut Rabu near Baghdad. No one actually knows exactly what the use of such a device would have been. The name Baghdad Battery comes from one of the theories established in 1938 when Wilhelm Koenig, the German archaeologist, led the excavations. He then examined the artifacts and concluded that this device was an ancient electric battery. After World War II, Willard Gray, an American working at the General Electric High Voltage Laboratory in Pittsfield, built replicas, and after filling the replicas with an electrolyte solution, discovered that the devices could produce up to 2 volts of electricity. The experiment gave credence to the battery theory, but it also brings up one nagging question. What were they used for? Number 6. The Odometer. Anyone who's ever been into a car would definitely have seen this next item on our list. One of the most prolifically used instruments in this modern era, the odometer, measures the distance traveled by a vehicle such as a bicycle or a car. Even though modern odometers are digital, in the beginning they were purely mechanical, slowly evolving into the electromechanical device we all know and love. Did you know it had its humble beginnings in ancient Greece? Vitruvius first described the odometer as being used for measuring distance around 27 BC, but evidence points towards Archimedes as being its inventor sometime around the First Punic War. Some historians also say that it was the brainchild of Heron of Alexandria. Regardless of who invented it, the odometer was widely used in the late Hellenistic period, and by the Romans for indicating the distance traveled by a vehicle. It helped revolutionize the building of roads by accurately measuring distance. The Romans were then in turn able to carefully mark distances with milestones. Number 5. Chocolates. Chocolates. What would the world be like without them? If you are a fan of this sweet and delectable treat, you have the ancient Maya to thank. The ancient Maya were the first to discover the many uses of the cacao bean between 250 and 900 AD. They mixed the cacao bean with pepper and cornmeal to make an extremely spicy chocolate drink. Sugar was rare in those days, which was a blessing considering there was no dental care to speak of. As a consequence, the Maya did not suffer from sugar-related conditions such as diabetes or obesity. However, sugary modern-day chocolate and chocolate drinks can be traced back to the Maya. Cacao beans were used as glue by being boiled and mixed with different bases, and were even considered valuable enough to be used as currency. Number 4. The sewage system. Now it's time to get down and dirty. Literally. From great metropolises to the tiniest of towns, not one of us would be able to exist without this ancient Roman idea. Without it, disease would spread like wildfire, and the air, well, it'd smell pretty funky, for lack of a better term. The ancient Roman Empire boasted the highest level of sewage and sanitation management in contemporary times. The Romans established a number of public baths, latrines, and an interlinked sewage line binding them all together in a complex and efficient feat of engineering. Rome and other major cities had an extensive network of sewers and drains that ran along the sides of the streets. The abundance of water in Roman aqueducts along with runoff water from local streams was regularly used to flush these drains and sewers. The flush would then dump all the waste into the nearest river, which does not sound the best sanitary solution, but, it was far better than leaving the sewage lying around in the streets. The ancient Romans also excelled in the use of covered gutters and sewer lines to which the majority of houses in the city were connected to. Without a doubt, their sewage and sanitation system made the ancient Roman forerunners for subsequent practices in sanitation throughout the world. Number 3. The alarm clock. One of the most commonly used gadgets these days is the alarm clock, and it too had its origins in ancient Greece. Over time, the alarm clock has undergone a number of changes and improvements from the mechanical alarm to modern gadgets like cell phones, which come with an inbuilt alarm. However, the first alarms used by the ancient Greeks were nothing like today. The Hellenistic engineer and inventor Sistivius fitted his klepsydras, or water clock, with a dial and pointer to indicate the time, and added an elaborate alarm system which involved pebbles dropping on a gong, or the blowing of a trumpet by forcing bell jars down into the water and taking the compressed air through beating a reed at preset times. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato was said to possess a large water clock with an unspecified alarm signal similar to the sound of a water organ. He used it at night, possibly for signaling to the beginning of his lectures at dawn. Now it's time for the day's best pick. In this one, you will see someone create something amazing by just using primitive techniques. You're not going to see a single shovel or hammer in sight. Number 2. The primitive pool with a slide. How many of you have ever tried to build something using your own 2 hands? I'm guessing there would be quite a few handymen watching this video right now who can answer yes to that question. But hear this, how many of you have ever built something without the proper tools? Impossible? Well, just wait till you see this guy. Primitive Ideas is a YouTube channel like no other. It shows you guys building a lot of things, and not little things, mind you. They have built houses of stone, wood huts, and even swimming pools with slides. So what's the catch? Well, they only use their hands and a few primitive tools, no power tools whatsoever. What's even more amazing is how these structures look like they finished after building them. They are quite stunning. Check out their channel and be amazed for yourself. It's actually really cool to watch them do it.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. Ancient nanotechnology. Chances are if you haven't watched Iron Man, you wouldn't even have any idea what nanotechnology is, so I'm sure it will come as a shocking surprise. The Lycurgus cup, as it is known due to its depiction of a scene involving King Lycurgus of Thrace, is a 1600-year-old jade-green Roman chalice that changes color depending on the direction of the light upon it. It baffled scientists ever since the glass chalice was acquired by the British Museum in the 1950s. They could not work out why the cup appeared jade-green when lit from the front, but blood-red when lit from behind. The mystery was, however, solved in 1990 when researchers in England scrutinized broken fragments under a microscope and discovered that the Roman artisans were nanotechnology pioneers. They had impregnated the glass with particles of silver and gold, ground down until they were as small as 50 nanometers in diameter, less than 1,000th the size of a grain of table salt. The work was so precise that there is no way that the resulting effect was an accident. In fact, the exact mixture of the metal suggests that the Romans had perfected the use of nanoparticles. Which primitive idea was your favorite? Let us know in the comments section below. Want to watch more videos about awesome ideas? Click on any of the videos you see on the screen. As always, thanks for watching everybody. I'll see you all later.